people have been talking about this and saying, oh, a bunch of kids in Sandy Hook got shot and it's a big tragedy, but what people are really saying is like a bunch of little white kids got shot and that's a really problem. It's a big problem, but it shouldn't be a thing about like where they are, like where they're from. It should be a problem that there are mass shootings of children. It shouldn't matter what community it is, but there are communities all over where terrible things happen, and it's not as big of a deal to the global media because they're not little privileged white kids.
There's been so many mass shootings and, people being targeted across the United States in different communities, but most of them have been communities of color, and they're not getting the same coverage. It doesn't negate the fact that, Sandy Hook was extremely unfortunate, extremely sad, and it hit home for me too, having a little sister in elementary, but at the same time, the recognition and the coverage it got was definitely unfair. I think that a lot of the terminology used and phrases like, these types of things don't happen in our neighborhoods, meaning these types of things don't happen in white neighborhoods and, in the suburbs. They happen in the hood, they happen in Chicago, and they happen every day, but they don't get the same recognition. More so the fact that, the shooter is given the attention of, okay, this person is sick, this person needs help just because he is white. Had he been Arab, had he been black, had he been brown, a terrorist, a gang member, something derogatory, something insulting, but just because he was white, he got the pass of, okay, he is also a victim. But I don't think he was. I think that because he was white, he got the pass, and that's not fair.
It's like the Trayvon Martin case, it just had to be the exact perfect kid because he was 17 in a suburban neighborhood, he had Skittles and iced tea in his pocket, and I thought about it and I thought, wait, if it was cigarettes in his pocket, it wouldn't have gotten the attention it got. If he had a tattoo, it wouldn't have gotten the attention it got. And even when George Zimmerman, in court, he finally apologized and he said, I'm sorry, I thought he was older. As if that means something, as if that's a justification for killing him. And it's like, these cases will only get coverage they need if they're people of color. They'll only get that coverage if it was like the most perfect situation.
I definitely believe that race played a role in the way the Sandy Hook tragedy was being reported on, especially because it was predominantly young white children, which has been constructed as a very sympathetic population when anything happens to them. And I think it's a reflection of the way our society and culture places value on certain body types and certain communities. For example, a lot of communities of color in different countries experience tragedies like mass killings of children every day, and yet it's not talked about.
Eradicating the ability to own a gun from people is not going to solve the problems. People are just going to get it underground, like the underground economies, like it happens. People don't usually get this stuff with a permission code. I don't think guns are problems. I think what the problem is that there is a lack of education, there's a lack of resources happening in our community. People are not, how do I say this? People are using punitive rather than preventative measures.
This guy is from a rich neighborhood, he's been well educated, all these things that help him like look better than everybody else. And because he does something that's out of the ordinary or crazy, he has mental health issues. Well, anybody else, it's just gang, terrorists, things like that, and it's just like, it's ridiculous. It's like the person shot up the person because he wanted to shoot up. Yeah, there might be problems with his life, things might happen, that happens to everybody. Think about that, happens to everybody who shoots up any place, any person. And maybe it's just a thing for power, he just wanted power. Like when you have a gun in your hand and everyone's listening to you, you have power. So I feel like the media uses mental health issues as an excuse to give people the right to do what they did, when nobody has the right to do what they did.
I do think that there's a correlation between mental health and gun violence, but I don't think that those are the only two issues at play here. I think violence is fueled by mental health issues, what religious communities and cultural communities teach their children and how they raise their youth, what kids are taught in school, the way adults form their thoughts based on what the media spews out at them. So I don't think it's fair to just blame guns or just blame mental health, because there are 1,000 different issues at play here. You have to take into consideration socioeconomic status, somebody's cultural background. What country are they coming from? What are they doing here? Do they have an education? Do they have access to a job, healthcare? What is driving these people to become so desperate? And honestly, I think that the solution to all of these problems is really simple. And it's one solution, even though I probably named what seems like a countless number of problems. And it's just if all of us take a minute and care about each other. We just need to stop thinking this person's not the same race as me, it's not the same community, it's not the same gender, it's not the same sexual orientation. None of it matters. Because in the end, what is any of that going to mean? What is any of that going to be worth? If you took somebody's life because they were gay, or because they were black, or because they were white, or because they were poor, or because they were Muslim, or Sikh, or Jewish, how is that going to change anything? How is that going to change the world that you inhabit? So all of us, no matter what position we're in, no matter how we feel about these issues, really do just need to start caring about each other. And we need to raise our kids to understand that. And it's going to take a global community effort. If parents aren't doing the job, if parents aren't raising their kids right, then we need to help teachers step in and take on that role. Because as cliche as it sounds, the kids are the future, right? Whatever we're raising now, that's who's going to run the world in 10, 20, 40 years. We are responsible for what our world is going to look like far long after we're gone. So just stop thinking, it's not my community, it's not my family, it's not my people. None of that matters. If we want a healthier, happier, safer world, then all of us have to step in and think about the person who we're sitting next to on the bus, who we're studying with in, group study sessions, who we're working with, the person that we just flipped off, the person that we just cursed off, the person who held the door for us, the person who's making our coffee, the person who's cleaning our houses. All these things need to be taken into consideration. So yes, guns are a problem. But so is the way that we all treat each other, the way we look at each other, what we think about one another. And that's a bigger problem. Because it's the perception of somebody's mental issues and somebody's socioeconomic status and somebody's race that creates these problems. It's not the fact that I'm brown that's a problem. The fact that you have a problem with me being brown is the problem. And that applies to just anyone.
I think there's like a quote by Mother Teresa that something about how when the world will be lost when we forget we belong to each other.